Hello, everyone. Welcome in. We'll give it a couple of seconds to let everyone join. But a big welcome to everyone who is coming in, and I'm really excited for this session. This is our first session of our new webinar series. It's powered by us at Employment Hero and also New Zealand's most iconic rugby team, the Blues. So my name's Madison. I'm a people partner here at Employment Hero, and I'll be the host today. And we've asked the Blues assistant coach and former rugby player Greg Feek all about kind of building high performing teams. At in terms of a little bit of housekeeping, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a bit of a QA button so you can submit all your questions. And we've got some allocated time at the end of the discussion to answer any of the questions that we can fit into the session today. Feel free to just chuck them in as we go across the session, or we can always come back round to a particular point. Super exciting session to unpack today with the Blues. So we're going to be exploring how Greg and the New Zealand's most iconic rugby team really builds alignment, trust, and sustained performance, and how those same principles can really translate into high performing business teams at every level. Something that I'm really passionate about, especially at Employment Hero, we view our mission through the lens of an Olympic sports team. So just like an elite squad chasing gold, the business needs a clear game plan, elite coaches, and a high performance framework and recovery. So Greg's going to show us how the world's best teams build that infrastructure so you can do the same for yours. So a big welcome, Greg, and thank you for joining me today. Before we get into it, I think it'd be fantastic if you could introduce yourself, share a little bit about you.
Thanks, Beds, and it's weird not being able to see people when you're talking to them. But it's awesome to be able to talk about my experiences in high performance. I've been coaching now professionally for around probably 15 years. I've coached international rugby, most of it. I was based in Dublin, Ireland for a good sort of 9.5 seasons and worked with Leinster and Ireland for many years. And before that, I was a professional player as well, and got to play for the All Blacks and Crusaders in a couple of games for the Blues. And then after Ireland, I managed to have a little bit of time in Japan, and then come home and coach with the All Blacks for a period of 4 years up until the 23 World Cup. And then that led me to the Blues. So that's a brief rundown on my career. And yeah, I could go into a bit more depth, but those experiences, they shape you. And every year you gain experiences, and that sort of mold into how you like things done and how they should be done. So yeah, hopefully today can share one or two things that you can take away.
Amazing. Thank you for that. 15 years is a good long amount of time. From your experience, what truly defines kind of a high performing team beyond results on the scoreboard?
I think well, it's where you first lay the foundations of, I think, what you stand for as a team, and the attributes required for that, and then your players get buy-in. So there's a vision attached to that, but there's a buy-in from all of us to know what that looks like and what it stands for. And then from there you establish the behaviours required, and how we go about our business. And I think when everyone's really clear on what you stand for initially, and particularly in sport, and that can be around how you play the game, how you act as a professional, like your behaviours, and from there, you go into your plan of how you're going to do that. So there's a number of different things that make a high performance team work. It's never just one thing, two things. It's a whole lot of things that come together. And even then, when you're chasing a Super Rugby title or a World Cup or Premiership if you're overseas, it can just not be your day, you know. but we try in this environment to do everything we can to get those performances to end up being victorious at the end. And I know that, and amongst all the training and diet and science that we have, that I still believe that a happy group loving what they do is still the essence of the foundations.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. I love all of that, and like you said, there's so many kind of components that build high performance in a team, and it really shows that it's not a fluke. It's definitely a choice made, and for those of us in kind of business and HR teams, it means that high performance culture isn't just a poster on the wall. It's a bit of a standard that we need to set and hold ourselves accountable to, especially when things get tough and you have one of those bad days. I guess as a coach, how do you personally like to set the tone and standards and culture within your team?
Yeah, so it's important that the players are really clear on what those are and we live it. So there's no point having stuff on the wall and it doesn't mean anything. We just have it there but don't actually live it. So if I was to use that for example, we celebrate people that live those values each week. We'll celebrate someone, and so that helps drive those behaviours and in our environment too. And but everyone also, I think we've got an eclectic bunch of people's backgrounds and cultures and stuff like that. So there's how we connect to everyone individually is important too. You know, I have this saying that you probably heard before: know them before you can coach them, and that's where we can get the best out of them. So holding them accountable is first of all developing those relationships, and I think once you've got those connections, you can take people to a place that the challenge I love is taking these players to a place they've never been before with their careers, and that's part of why I do coaching, because you have such an influence on their career. You win a competition, they'll never forget for the rest of their lives. And you 20 years later, you're still remembering it when you see those people. So there's so many cool things that I feel in high performance that um, it's almost addictive.
Yeah.
And we can go into more detail specifically around that if you want at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you've got any specific examples, I'd love to hear them.
Yeah. Oh, I suppose one example was finding your why first, and I didn't know whether I wanted to coach. So I think this is really important for the leaders in knowing your why. I was coaching at a sort of under 20s level, and I was still only a couple of years into my coaching. And this player was pretty unhappy about the position he was playing and didn't seem really motivated. And I hadn't had a chance to get to know him too well at the time. And I'd only been there an hour or so, and we went into this training. And after about 20 minutes, I said to him, "Look, just try this, try that." And he did another 20 minutes, came off, and he was walking towards me with a big smile on his face. And I turned around thinking he saw someone behind me, because I hadn't seen this smile for, before the game in that first 20 minutes. And he was actually smiling at me. And I said, what's happened? He goes, "Oh, I made him squeal." And suddenly I felt this euphoria come over me, like, okay, now I get it. Now I know why people coach. They're seeing that transformation has stuck with me ever since. So I'm not looking for that all the time, because now I know when there are changes and when people are going. But it did give me my why, like really like why I enjoy it first. I think that's really important start when you're doing it, because if you're in it for the wrong reasons, we don't know why, you lose that essence of what high performance is about.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. And I think it's a really great message that, we can all take on in our roles, leading with the why, clarity. And something that I'd love to say is kind of as leaders, we're a little bit of a thermostat in the business. We want to envision and embody that high performance first, so we're enabling other people to do that too. I guess in terms of being a coach or a manager, how can we continue to enable players? How do we balance kind of that need for high accountability and ownership of, your own position, but also with the need to kind of empower your players to make their own decisions in the heat of the moment and trust your judgment?
Yeah, there's a lot on that question, to be fair. I think for me, the coaches lead it, but they drive it. But they need to know what they're driving. You can't just go, right, we're going to do this. Right, it's up to you now, So there's knowledge about what needs to happen and what we need to do. But the true essence is actually them taking the time for the understanding to come through. And that's why I think if you find that the understanding is not quite there, you pull away these individuals and give them time to, because when they do get there, that's where the magic starts to happen. They feel they can drive things. They feel confident to stand in front of a group because they understand and know, and I would take the time to get the basics right around that first before you start getting players to lead things. You want to actually give them the tools, give them the confidence, and then you nurture them through the process. And a few times, like I know if I get a younger player to get up and present, I'll introduce him first, and the boys will clap, and he'll come up and he'll present, and then we'll clap him afterwards. Because when the senior guys know if it's a younger guy that this is part of his growth,
Mm.
and so everyone's behind it. So the culture around what we're doing is everyone understands that that's part of. We're not just here to win games; we're here to grow people. We need to grow leaders. We need to have understanding. So. But yeah,
Yeah,
in that question, there's a lot there that you could go, But
absolutely.
yeah, but for me, I think it's where it starts. Is don't ever assume that they understand, and how you do that. When you tell someone, there's an old saying: when you tell someone, they'll forget. If you remember that, then you'll spend the time to actually get the understanding. Don't just think, oh, I told them. The amount of times I've heard someone say, "Oh, I told them not to do that." I'm like, well, you know, that's is that them or you? Or us? For me, if I am about to say that, I'll be kicking myself because okay, what could I have done better there? I told him, but he didn't remember. So maybe
Mm.
I need to sit down with him, show him more, spend the time to really get that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I know it can be a big shift, for leaders when they're moving from that doing to enabling, especially new leaders, for anyone who's on the call. Really about learning how to give those boundaries for people to play fast, run fast without feeling like they need to check in on every single move and they know exactly what the game plan is. Um,
Yeah, and sometimes our biggest enemy is time.
mm,
Like again, in high performance, we say, oh, I just don't have enough time. What that does create is a rushed environment, and you end up talking fast. Players become a little bit on edge. What do you say? I didn't quite catch.
mm,
So I would pretend they're in slow mo, even talk slower, um, and just make sure that you're the one controlling the time when you're talking and when you're getting these messages across. Because for instance, like in rugby, I might have 10 words to say at half time. That's all I've got to say. I can't say any more. I've got to choose the best phrases, the best words. But if I go, blah, 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 they're not going to know what was that. We need to be really, really clear, really impactful on what that is. And they can envision that in their heads and go, got it.
absolutely. It's I guess the real core difference between being busy and being effective, even having the same amount of time. I think that this all starts with, like you said, clarity and having that game plan. How do you like to build your game plan in your role and kind of making sure that also every player's individual habits are kind of moving things forward in where the team's wanting to go?
So say you've got a group of 20. Um, I'd, I like to sort of break that down into smaller groups first as well, if that's the case. And maybe so there's four groups of five. You grab the four leaders of those five groups. You chat to make sure that they're all really clear. They go back to those groups, they talk to them about it, and then we come together and then we check that everyone's on the same page again, because sometimes in a big group, you're not going to get questions as much as you do when it's a smaller group as well.
Oh, yeah.
So, and they'll come back to me and say, hey, I've had a couple of questions in my group. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, right, that's cool. Well, let's discuss that as a whole group later on. So, as we all know, in high performance business, and a lot of things, a comms breakdown can be the number one issue everywhere. So, for like, if I use an example in the All Blacks and and in the Irish team, you'd meet the week before a test match, then the following week you're playing England or you're playing France, right? You haven't got time. Really, this is the time thing. You don't have time to have all the meetings and trainings that you need, right? So you need to be able to have your structure of communication so good that when you come together, we've got that clarity. So how you do that, how your senior leaders come together and transmit that game plan to everyone else. So you divide that up into these different groups, attack, defense, and always making sure that the whole group they know and they understand. Yeah. So again, it's just spending time on the things that you go, oh yeah, I know communication is important, but you have to actually spend more time on that first, because it means when we get out there, boom, we can actually get into our work really quickly. So again, it's looking at some of those basic things that you talk about all the time, and maybe going, let's just do that a bit more. Let's do that, and in that too, you're getting more connection and you get more questions coming out of it, which gives you more clarity.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And when you are kind of short of time and working out what's important, how kind of important do you think regular check-ins, feedback, and kind of coaching conversations are in elite sport, and how can leaders maybe replicate this for themselves?
Yeah. So, for me, you're constantly doing that. So before training, you want the clarity. Afterwards, you can have a review as you're walking off the field. Some people call that a hot review. And then you might actually structure, and we need another little meeting here, but we'll make it 8 minutes. Come together so that everyone's clear on what needs to be fixed or what are the issues. Yep, no, got that. That then allows minds to be relaxed, and we can actually get the recovery, and people can actually switch off for the next day. So those little catch ups and those little reviews and touch points actually help players' anxieties and stress more, because they know what the problem is. It's a bit of this, a bit of that. They can do this. They go home clear. Don't ever think that a conversation after something, before something, is a bad thing. It's just the way you got your energy when you're asking it, and you're really just trying to get better. So yeah, and that's a massive part of what we do.
Mhm. I really like how you're talking about kind of those small touch points. I think in businesses, and from my experience, a lot of what I've seen is we leave a lot of those conversations to a really structured period of time in a week, and kind of pick up everything all in one go. And I think that it can be really hard to kind of review and look at a mistake or look at a coaching opportunity on that maybe happened the week before, and come back to it now. It almost has to be those small touch points. It doesn't have to be a big conversation, but it's around, I think, building that trust, to be able to share that often.
Yeah. Yeah, when you get to know your players really well, you know the ones that will be beating themselves up, you know, and you know the ones that probably need a little bit of a rocket as well. So you've got an arm around, one you've got, hey mate, I think you need to, but they know you're doing it because you care, right? So that relationship you've built, they know that you want the best for them. You're not being a prick, I suppose is the word. You're not being mean to them. but it's that old classic cruel to be kind almost, you know. And again, it's when they trust that that's what it's. They know that you're there for them. They know you're doing what's best for the group, the team. Um, then they'll start coming to you as well when they are under the. I mean, they are under it, and I don't know anyone that hasn't been under a lot of pressure and feeling it and feeling in a hole. I don't know anyone in my role I've had, me personally, where we haven't been through that ourselves. So high performance is not easy.
Mm, absolutely. Um, what role do you think recognition has in motivating kind of high performing teams?
I think it's massive. I think any organization, you have to um, show that people are valued. I think that's the number one thing that, in my experience. So recognition is it doesn't have to be dramatically amazing like flowers and chocolate and flash restaurants like that. I mean, we all some of us will love one of those three. But even just a thumbs up, even just a pat on the back, even just a hey mate, that was awesome, well done. Loved how you're really courageous, or I loved the vulnerability there. Um, the little things go a long way. you know.
Mm,
And I do think that recognition, feeling valued, appreciated, respected is huge. And I think we need it more in this day and age than ever.
yeah, absolutely. And it's a great point and a good thing for everyone to note. It just doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be that kind of pat on the back. It can be the thumbs up. The small bites of recognition and your words can make all the impact in terms of fueling for somebody's next sprint.
Yeah,
Really.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think, and the other thing about feeling valued is when you have an issue or you're not quite getting it, people just, as leaders, we listen, we stop, and we listen to that. Just for that, that's a big moment for this person to have the courage to come up and say something, where they either haven't got something or they're battling or there's something not clear. But you want that courage and you want that vulnerability for them to come to you because that's going to help them move on. It's going to help the business, it's going to help the company. And for us, that could be the difference of them going into the game more confident and they catch that last pass. They make that decision clear. So um, there's a lot that the rugby players have on their plates nowadays. A lot of sportsmen have on their plate. There's a lot riding on it, and so we want to try to help them perform as best they can.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, something that we always hear, kind of a work hard, play hard, but in reality, it can also be a little bit of a train hard, recover harder. Is there any kind of daily, weekly habits that you think make the biggest difference to really retaining the and sustaining the performance we've been talking about?
I think if you've got an environment where you have to have work hard on the wall, I'd be concerned because first of all, you're there for a reason, because you've got the work ethic. You're not in a high performance environment if you haven't, right? Some won't know the level they have to get to when they get in, but that's your job to show the way, right? We will work hard here. That's a given, right? That's who we are. So that's our identity. That's part of what we do. For me, it's about working smarter. Don't overdo it. Do the work required. Do it well. Do it the best you can, and we do it together and support each other. But for me, yep, recovery is massive. But that's just you're being smart, you know.
Mm,
And if you need to recover harder because you've had a tough week, didn't do it. Yeah, don't hold back on it. And I think the biggest thing around working is knowing your tendencies to overwork more than anything. The
mm,
other ones that we need to be more aware of and how we can support each. A lot of people actually overdo it.
mm.
That's
Yeah.
particularly in these environments because they're driven. That's why they're there. And we've got to respect that. And you don't survive long in an environment if you don't work hard. You know, and particularly here because we measure it. You know, you're 5Ks down on everyone else this week. Something's not right. Are you running around on one leg? You know, like it's all visible. It's all there. It's clear. So,
Yeah,
and we would select people. One of our values is work rate. So we'll select people on that. You know, so I don't know
absolutely.
that might be a bit different. You're not running around the office and stuff like that, but I think that's where the elite really stand out is the ones that don't make high performance and don't make the elite aren't up to it,
Mm,
unfortunately.
mm. Yeah, I think it's a really interesting thing about rest and recovery, and I think it's probably a little bit of a newer approach in workplaces. We've always spoken about high performance in businesses, but that rest and recovery hasn't been, I think, as evident as it is in kind of the sports coaching world. I think when we look at high performers, at least from my experience, they're always going to be the ones that push themselves further, always guilty about not staying that extra hour or knocking off one more thing on that to do list. So it's really important, I think, as leaders, you've got to be as disciplined about their rest as they are about their work for them almost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I see it all the time. Like, and I've done it myself. I'm like, why am I tired? Why am I even asking myself that I know that? You know, and sometimes you're going to be tired, right? But that can only go on for so long. So it's finding a window and actually going, hang on, I'm putting all this energy into everyone else. Yep, that's fine. But right, I need to have some Greg time.
Mm,
Sorry, but that's happening right now. Otherwise, I'm going to be, no good for anyone. I'm not going to be able to perform at my best. So, knowing what those are, and then everyone's different. Could be walking the dog. It could be a sauna. It could be going into the woods and walking in nature. You know what? Whatever floats your
mm,
boat, you do and do you. But you got to have something. Yeah.
mm,
And there'll be guys, people out there that will go, oh, I've always been like this. This is what I do. But it's amazing when it suddenly catches up with you.
mm. Yeah, absolutely. Um, you were speaking about before kind of having a quite a large team and everyone's quite different. How do you like to bring together kind of individuals with different personalities, roles, strengths, and kind of align into this one team and one clear, I guess, plan together?
Yeah, I mean, that's where you go, right, this is about team first. So you can be the individual here. So use the fields, the lines of the field, for example. When you're on the grass and you cross that line, you are now a team man, and we need you to do this. And some guys, you go, you've got this X factor. Use that whenever you want, really. You know what I mean? But within the structure, and so we get buy-in, and I think the trick is, well, not the trick, but the key is just again getting that buy-in from everyone around what that looks like, and the boys buy in when it's clear and they believe it. So sometimes you got to sell the reason why you're doing it, have a little bit of input, create a bit of fun around it, but and celebrate the individuals outside when they are themselves. Like for me, um, that's what I love about the Blues is we've got lots of different cultures, but when we come together, you can see that, and that's what makes us special. It's our X factor is we can play a game and have these different athletes doing their thing, which is pretty cool. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's again a reasonably simple answer, but there's no like magic one thing to do, but it is that's for me is definitely a key in all those parts I talked about, the communication, the feeling valued, getting to know them before you coach them. I think that all helps
Mm.
them all feel respected in who they are and where they've come from because of that. Um, and here we celebrate all the different cultures too, so it's cool.
Yeah. Amazing. Now, we've spoken a little bit about kind of the tough times and knowing when you need to rest, and that can obviously come with some uncomfortable conversations as a coach. How do you kind of address any performance gaps or, maybe some tough love feedback that you have to give without damaging that trust and morale that you're really working on building?
I think. being genuine and being honest first, and a bit of care in that. You can't go wrong in any feedback you give. I think when it's a mixed message, and you're sort of dancing around it, and you feel, oh, I don't know if I just say it, just in a caring way, um, because again, that's clarity too. What
Mm.
am I not doing to not get selected? What am I not doing? I had a conversation the other day with a player, and I said, you've got to have patience in terms of like where you're at now, but in 2 or 3 weeks, you'll be in a different spot. The last thing you want to do is go out of the structure and things you've been given to try and accelerate that, because that's where something could happen to put that further, delay that from happening. You've got to trust the process. Not quite ready yet, but um, it's going to come. It'll come. And sometimes they want to know exactly what it is. I'll go do that. Okay, I've done it. Well, sometimes it's not as simple as that. Or it could be. It could be something where, in a certain skill, they just need to get better at. So you can actually then help them with that too. So there's always different. There's always
Yeah.
different. Like it's never one the same thing every week, but that's again, if you haven't got those relationships, I think with the different people, knowing them, well, this guy needs a little bit of I need to chill him, a little bit calm him, you know what I mean? So he doesn't get frustrated. Because we can talk about frustration later if you want, but yeah, you want them feeling like, okay. And
Mm.
that can be like, that's not enough for me, their personality, but I'm sorry, but it is at the moment. It's as clear as that. So
Yeah. Absolutely. I have always said feedback is a bit of a gift, and I think it's an act of respect when we're talking about, businesses, sport, kind of anywhere where you've got an opportunity to get feedback. Generally speaking, the person on the other side and giving that feedback is engaged you know, in your growth. So it obviously starts with trust, but it can be a really great act of respect to give our teams. For you and for all kind of the leaders on the call today, what's kind of one habit or mindset shift that you believe people should adopt when they're building a high performing team?
mindset shift. Almost like a wow. I don't know whether this is. I'll use this story, right? And some might connect to it. So I was struggling a bit a few years ago around my coaching. I sort of lost a little bit of the why. Then I got asked, great question by a coach that I really admire and respect. He said, what is it you enjoy most about what you do? And I was like, I've forgotten, you know? I'd actually forgotten what I got so caught up. I'd overworked. I was in my head. I was like, I'd lost that essence. It was such a great question, so simple.
Mm.
And I was coming into my garage and there was a dartboard on the wall. And I looked at it and I thought to myself, geez, feels like I'm looking at the dartboard. Dartboard's got all the triples and the doubles and it's got all the numbers and all that. I thought that's me at the moment. I don't know what I'm aiming for. You know what I mean? I don't
Mm.
know what I'm enjoying. I'm trying to find it, and it's just a bit of a dartboard for me. So I got out of the car. I got 3 darts, and what is it I enjoy? Then I realised it just came to me. I love on the field. That's the part that's the most fun. I've got to do all the other work around it, but that's the part I love the most. Then I looked at the bullseye, and I thought, right, that's my bullseye. I'm just going to think the whole dartboard's a bullseye, and I started throwing the darts, and I hit it twice, and I was zeroed in on it. I was focused on it, and realised that actually I've been trying to cover so much, and actually I'm just going to worry about getting that right and just love it and see how it goes. All right. Anyway, we come into an All Black training, and after the second session I've done that week, a senior player came up to me who I respect massively. I won't name him but he was a senior right up there near the end of his career. And he said, great week, great sessions. And you know what? it looks like that you're really enjoying what you do, and it's really flowing onto us, and it's making us love what we do, you know, and we're all pumped for the weekend and can't wait.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, God, sometimes we can think we've got to do this, got to do that, where we, again, I know it sounds so simple, but I'd lost the essence of why I did it. The players or your staff see someone walking around with no body language, that say, for instance, they walk around with no body language, no excitement in what they do. Um, everyone gets feet off it, right? And I do remember I used to have the saying, and it reminded me of that too. It's how I'm enjoying what I do is normally how I get up in the morning. If you're hitting the snooze button 10 times, then something's wrong.
Yeah.
Or if those covers aren't coming off quick and you're up and you're excited, and that was a good reminder, whether that's relevant, I don't know, but that's what sprung into my head when you asked that question, that, does come back to such simple things in high performance that can make a difference. And when I worked with Joe Schmidt, who's he was always big on, like, right, we're going to meet at 7:15. I've got flat whites coming at 7:25, so that we're up and we're energized and we can kick into the day. That was always his thing. He knew as a group we needed to be up and energized like, are you faking it? I don't know, but it's still finding that enjoyment and making sure that your body language is there. And even coming to the Blues, I go, right, if I need to stay in my car for another couple of minutes so that I go in and my body language is good, my energy is good, then that's going to be a reflection on how we go about the day. Yeah. A little
Yeah.
bit long-winded, that answer, but you can see I'm quite passionate about it, like some of these things.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love that story. And I think you hit the nail on the head. High performance doesn't have to be some complex strategy behind everything that you're doing. It can really be those small, routine ways of genuine connection with your team that can really build a strong foundation for that. And knowing your purpose and your reason for driving that forward for your team, it's where it starts.
A simple way, like, but it's some of the things we've talked about so far are the hardest things to monitor and do, because you're in here, you're in your head a lot, and look, high performance is hard. It's not, it's hard. It can be torture, um, for some people, like at times it's like, oof, and even for me, like, there's many stories I could give, but I remember being selected in the All Blacks as a player, turning up to training and going, "Oh my God, like, this is like I didn't know the term imposter syndrome back then, but now I look on it and that's what I had." I remember them saying, "Right, we're going to run through this at 50%," and I'm running 100 miles an hour. I'm going, what's it going to be like when we're running full speed? You know what I mean? Like, there's so many things that I felt out of place with, but here I am in this dream role, dreamt about it since a kid. I'm there, and I'm absolutely shitting myself. Like, I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, it can be like that. Um,
Yeah. Absolutely. What was, I guess, the biggest difference you found from being a part of like a high performing team as a player and then also coaching in that high performance?
I think with coaching, I was probably no, not probably. I was definitely more assured of myself. I felt I've done the hard yards, um, and I didn't have imposter syndrome, anymore. I just needed to understand the environment, know the players, know what we're about, and then, so I was a lot more confident in doing that. And I think knowledge is one thing, but I think experience outweighs everything in terms if you've got them both, like experience gives you all this knowledge, and if you continually working on yourself, and that's the gift that for me, rugby, particularly in high performance, has given me, is you're telling people to grow and to develop. And so I've tried to do that as well, and so if you are prepared to listen, take in some maybe some ugly feedback at times, but you know that this is going to help you personally, but also professionally, then you do that, you know. So yeah, that's a bit of a theme so far, isn't it? You know,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it's all about us, really. You know.
For sure. All starts at the top, doesn't it?
Yeah.
um, I've got a few questions, so we'll jump into a Q&A.
Okay.
Um, the first question is, what type of activities did you kind of perform to grow your team's connection?
Um, Depends on what you're after, you know. So if you want sort of team bonding and things like that, where they have to um, problem solve, you know, there's things like that that you can do. Fun stuff. One thing that I've learned is in a relaxed when you're out of work and you're in a relaxed environment where you're not at work. Um, and look, can be coffee, can be just a bit, kind of like it feels less like there's no pressure, and conversations just start happening fluidly. You know, now you can have a quiz beforehand, but have a break. You can have you could have a bus trip to do something first, but allowing these little social times for people to connect and as a leader, they're great opportunities to ask some questions because everyone's feeling relaxed, and they'll actually give you stuff during those times that you might not get when you're sitting across them on the desk, or even sometimes at the coffee machine, even when people are working. But I sort of feel like it depends on what you're after and what you want to do, and if it's just solely the team getting to know each other and connecting, then you do it that way. But if you actually want to find out more about the group and allow that to happen and don't rush things and manufacture too much, but I do think people open up more out of the environment where it's a bit more relaxed, a bit more social. It doesn't have to be, like I said, it doesn't have to be around alcohol or food or whatever. That sometimes can be good, but it can be just an excursion somewhere. It could be like a high performance program that you're going to go and do first, but you stop off somewhere before and after to find, you know. So we don't do a lot of so team building sort of like gaming stuff because we've got fitness things that we can do together. We're already doing a lot of that, you know. It's pulling them out of all that and actually getting real combos and connecting. And even the players will go away and do their own thing too, you know. So there's never a wrong thing to do, but it's like it probably starts with that why and what do we want from it, you know, is what I'd be asking more.
Mm.
And what do they want to do too is the other one. Like our boys were like, we're more than happy. We don't have to stay at a flash hotel. We can go and stay in Malaya because we're all tight and together, you know. So it's amazing what sometimes the senior leaders think, managers, and then you go and talk to and they're like, we just want to go to I don't know, to campsite, you know, like, oh, okay. Um,
Yeah,
Go fishing and go hunting, whatever it is, you know, make a fire on the beach, you know, like, yeah, I'll keep
yeah,
going.
absolutely. A kind of related question, and it's on the same line. Someone's asked about how you find the balance between being both a leader and a coach for them, but also being, you know, friends with them at the end of the day with players.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. Like, you know, I think that is again the friends thing. Like, you just treat them as people, you respect them, you have fun with them. Like, humor for me is a great way to connect in any culture that I've been in. Um, so for me, like being hard on them, coaching them, being friends with them. Yeah, you do whatever's comfortable. And there's some that you'll have connections with for the rest of your life, whether they're with you in that company or not later on. You know, like for me, I'll always stay in touch with people whether they're dotted in all around the world now. And um, you may not be like real close friends, but for me, it's pretty cool to see their careers advancing and going further. So I always say to them, like, I'm here to support you, not just here, but if you want to go somewhere and develop yourself more, talk to me about it. Let's go. Where you go, I just want to make sure you go somewhere that you really love and it'll grow you or help you financially or whatever that is, you know. So those are the, you know, for me, it's just about a relationship that you've established, and don't be afraid to, you know, you don't want to be calling around their house and randomly, but you know, like it's just being normal around that and being really authentic in who you are, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I've got another question here, which is when you're trying to kind of implement something new or change something that you've already got pre-existing, how do you create a safe space for trying those new things?
Oh, I love that. That's the part I really enjoy. So I'll try to I call it working on the fringes. So having a somewhere where you can go or some players that you can trial things with. So I can actually go to Japan. I work in Japan as well with a company rugby team over there, and I'll trial things with them and because I've got they have a long preseason, so I can actually trial things and go through it, and then I'll bring that back and go, oh, I quite like that, and I'll do it here. If I'm just doing it here, I know that when you change something, there's going to be we call it a little bit of performance dip, you know, because it feels different, right? And I give this same spiel to the players. I said, golfers are the same. They change part of their swing. They'll go and hide away for a month so no one sees it because they'll be all over the place to start with because it's a change. But we've got to trust the change is for the better. It's either you're bringing something in new or different for a reason, and they need to see that. Not just you just don't tell them it's happening. You got to explain it, the why, give them some evidence-based stuff around how it's going to work, and then trust the process. You know, and you've got to be the one not panicking that it's not looking good initially as well. If it doesn't, you know, if you've done your homework and you know this is the right thing, then you're the one that's got to trust the process more than them first as well. Okay, so yeah, there's a performance dip they call it when you change something, but what you want is them to start improving, and then it just accelerates like this. And we have such in rugby, there's so many different skill sets that are required. I see this, you see it all the time, but
Mm.
done it enough now to know that there will be, and some adapt quicker than others too. You know,
Mm. Yeah,
hope that's answered the question.
absolutely. I always say just bring people on the journey. You know, it's not something being done to them; it's being done with them.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, for sure.
100%.
Now, somebody's asked a question, and you'd mentioned it before and said you might be able to go into some detail on it. But the question is, how do you manage frustration? And I'm assuming that's with
Yeah,
players reaching where they'd like to be.
yeah. So Gilbert Anoka, I worked with him for well, as a player as well, and I worked with him closely in the All Blacks. We had a group. It was the mental skills group, basically, that formed a strategy each week around our mental plan for the week. Right, it was I loved it. You know, very privileged to work alongside him, and we used to talk about frustration tolerance, low frustration tolerance, and high. And it was something that has really stuck with me and made a goal for myself that when I'm feeling frustrated, I've got to recognize it first when I am feeling frustrated, um, and what it is that's doing that, and then try to understand where that's coming from. I know that's quite deep, but it's really connecting to ourselves even deeper because if you live in a world of frustration, I promise you that it's not going to get any easier. So frustration, I think, particularly in a male environment, it's the start of where everything not good happens, you know, in terms of health and everything. Um, so if a player, I'll make sure if I see, so I can tell, you know, grab them, right, sit down, take a breath. You know, sometimes that's all it is a few deep breaths, calm down, right, let's go through it. Okay, and they feel better. But if it's been happening for a while, you need to go and talk to someone about what it is. Someone close to you initially, because you may not think it's a big deal, but frustration and high performance is not helpful for you. It is not helpful, and trust me, it can, it can lead you to making decisions that you regret or you're not clear in the head. You see, so it's really important. I would definitely make that in your environment, just to even when you're a leader and you're looking at your staff, who has a high frustration tolerance, who can handle it and who can't, and then work out, right, let's try and support them with that and see what's going on. If it's something that you find is a bigger issue in the environment, but even talk about it as a workplace. I'm
Yeah,
pretty passionate.
absolutely.
I'm pretty, yeah, there's mental health. I'm really passionate about that, in this environment, because as I said before, high performance is not easy.
Absolutely. It's something that we talk about even here in, an environment where we're not running I guess our physical bodies to the ground, but that mental side is still really there. So it's important to pay attention to it, because
Yeah.
high performance doesn't come without you feeling good all round, personal and inside, when you've got your responsibilities of work. I've got a question here on motivation, how you kind of keep that momentum high, maybe when you're not winning games at that point in time.
Yeah, I think with then that's where high performance is hard, right? We're here to win games, and I've certainly been through a lot of positive stuff, but the big thing around when you're losing is, first of all, it tests um, the solidarity of the group. If there's any cracks, where are the issues really starting to come? Who's not aligned? So there's observations there. The last thing you want to do is start changing things dramatically, because I think you see it, if you start losing and you start changing things, it means that you've got to be thinking about that dip. So you're not only losing, but then you're making a change where there's going to be another dip because of that. So if you've got the right systems in place, yes, there's going to be times when you don't quite get it right. That's high performance. It's how you correct that, and it's a challenge. It's like, as a leader, if your body language is like, oh, defeat, or is it going to be, we got this? That'd be the first thing. Check yourselves. Your Not only your body language, but the language you use is really important when you are in a negative space, or you've lost or whatever, because those are the things that they're like an infection. And as soon as you're like that, another leader's like that, it can spread pretty fast, and that means that you're not trusting what you've put in place. So find the solutions, don't find the problems. Find the solutions, be solution based, and keep the confidence up, keep the enjoyment up. But and there'll be a couple that you might have to make some changes somewhere. But if they're only small things that don't, require a change in game plan or whatever, then yeah.
Yeah, perfect. I think this might be our last question before we wrap up, but it is, what has been the most difficult coaching moment, and what have you learnt from it moving forward?
I've got a list of few tough coaching moments. I'm thinking one of the hardest things I've been involved in was, the most recent stuff was probably in the All Blacks, actually, with Ian Foster. And there was, we're over in South Africa, and basically our jobs were on the line. So that was, it was pretty tough. I'm laughing now, but geez. Yeah, that was one of the toughest things I've been involved in, knowing like, okay, we don't win this, we're gone. That's high stakes. But I think what I learned from it was what I was basically saying before, you know, what there's actually, and what we've got here and what we're doing and how we've been doing things, we believe in it. We didn't start like throwing the sink out, in the kitchen and the whole bathroom and everything. We actually kept it there and just kept driving the things we knew, trusted the group that we had, trusted the plan, everything we had, and just the work hard thing probably went a little bit up. But then we got through it and pulled off a victory in Johannesburg. That was pretty cool and special. So yeah, that's one. But there's been plenty. Don't worry, there's been plenty that you probably need another hour to talk about that stuff. But that's where you know, as I said before, the experiences we are shape us, and there's some things now that I know are just not negotiables. That has to happen. So um, and we're all so tight as a group as well. That we blocked out the white noise around us. Well, I almost felt like there was a cocoon around us, and we just got on with it. Yeah, and then obviously, yeah, that's the one example. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We absolutely learn from our failures sometimes as leaders and changes that we make, and it's how we grow to be doing best. So sometimes it's just about having a crack with a really clear game plan and seeing how it works. Um, Greg, I want to really thank you for being our guest speaker today and for this masterclass. And to everyone watching, I think something to take away, high performance isn't something that just happens overnight. It's absolutely something that you build through kind of the right clarity and messaging and why behind everything that you're doing. And it doesn't have to start complex. It can absolutely start simple and in what Greg has spoken about today. We hope that these things really resonate with you and that you've taken a thing or two away to implement moving forward. And this session has been recorded and will be shared as well to all the attendees. So if you want to come back to anything, you will be able to. To close off just with some last housekeeping, when this webinar ends, you'll be redirected to a survey. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on today's session, what worked well for you, what you'd like to see more of in the future. And we hope to see you on the next session of this series. Greg, is there anything you want to say to anyone before we wrap up?
Don't forget your bullseye. Enjoy what you do. Love it.
Perfect. A good way to wrap on up. So I'll say, have a great day, everybody. Thank you again, Greg, and for everyone who has joined us wherever you are based.